A major goal this year is improving the efficiency of the government. So why in the world do we have 100,000 workers getting paid that are not working? Not because they can't work, but because the administration doesn't want them to work. Is this even legal? What's happening here? Let's get into it. Administrative leave is when a federal employee gets paid time off without dipping into their vacation or sick leave. As a federal worker, you get your full salary, full benefits. You don't have to come to work. You can stay at home. Sounds like a pretty sweet deal, right? Well, it was intended for short-term use. You want to go vote? You want to go vote in an election? Well, you can do that. You can use admin leave. Maybe give blood? Use admin leave. What about inclement weather? Yeah, maybe that's a case for it. Also, if you're under investigation, if there's been some workplace shenanigans and they want to find out who to blame, you can find yourself on administrative leave. But admin leave is supposed to be brief and justified. This makes sense because you're getting paid not to work. So it's not in the taxpayer's interest to have you on admin leave month after month. The Administrative Leave Act of 2016 says agencies can only give employees up to 10 workdays of administrative leave per year. That's it. Anything more than 10 days, you're not following the intent of this act. Spoiler alert, that's exactly what they're doing. In just the first 4 months of 2025, we've seen 100,000 workers placed on administrative leave. That's the size of a medium city. And if you do the calculation on how much that costs the government, you're looking at $1 billion plus in a lot of situations, depending on how you run the numbers. But these people are being placed on administrative leave for multiple months, going out to September 30th. For context, take a look at this 2014 GAO report. It looked at payroll data from 2011 to 2013. It found over 200 employees racked up between 1 and 3 years of paid administrative leave, costing taxpayers an estimated $31 million. And that was before President Trump. And that was a couple of hundred people. Think of what that means when you add that number to 10,000 employees, to 100,000 employees. So who's on this leave? It's a mix. From employees taking the deferred resignation program, to people that worked in DEI offices, to people that were on RIF notices, also court reappointed probationary workers. Now with the RIF, we found out that that's on pause indefinitely until an appeal goes through with the circuit court and possibly the Supreme Court. But as of right now, that's not happening. The common thread is they're all getting paid to do nothing. If you look at the VA, there's one case where they had a guy under investigation for a year. So let's say this guy makes $80,000 a year. I don't know how much he makes. Let's say he makes $80,000. So for the entire year, he's drawing this paycheck while he's under investigation, and he's not really doing anything. Multiply that by thousands, and you quickly get to the number of hundreds of millions, if not $1 billion. So why is this happening? The short answer is agencies are exploiting a loophole. And OPM, the Office of Personnel Management, they're assisting. They're helping agencies. And it's all being done under the President Trump banner. They have an effort to shrink the government. Even though they're still paying these people, the optics, the way it looks like is, oh, we told these people to get out of the office. We're dismantling this agency. Yeah, they're dismantling the agency, but the employees are still getting paid at home. Back in 2016, Congress passed the Administrative Leave Act to stop this kind of abuse. After that GAO report, the 2014 report, it pretty much put a spotlight on what was happening. The rule was made. It basically said 10 days. That's the limit. And they had different categories like, hey, this one's for investigative purposes. This one's for other purposes. So they tried to make it clear on what agencies are supposed to be doing when it comes to admin leave. OPM, the agency in charge of implementing the law, they decided to play word games. They said the 10-day cap for admin leave, that only applies for people under investigation. Everyone else, you can just use it as much as you want. So just like that, poof, federal agencies had unlimited paid leave. Any problem employee, anybody they wanted to physically remove from the office, they just snapped their fingers, put them on admin leave. This is a huge problem for 3 main reasons. First, the law's plain language doesn't support OPM's interpretation. Congress set the investigative leave as a separate category, so it's clear that the 10 days, it's broad. It applies to all categories. Second, the legislative history backs this up. The Senate report explicitly said that this rule is to prevent federal agencies from being too generous with the admin leave. And third, OPM doesn't have the authority to rewrite the law. They're supposed to follow it. They can't gut it. They're not Congress. OPM is not Congress, right? So the real consequence is, yeah, sure, dollars, taxpayer dollars, millions of dollars, maybe upwards of $1 billion. But then you have the loss of trust when it comes to the federal government. Let's take a look at some examples. Take the DoD. According to the 2014 report, they granted paid leave for things like rest and recuperation for employees serving in Afghanistan. Fair enough, right? When I was deployed to Iraq, I used myself a little R&R, and I thought it was well-deserved. It was like 2 or 3 days, not a big deal. But when you're using admin leave to sidestep personnel issues, that's when it becomes a problem. One case involved a DoD employee who was placed on leave for 6 months during a misconduct investigation. That's a half a year's salary. Let's say it's $50,000. $50,000 going down the drain. You're not getting any output from that employee. You're still paying them. Or consider the VA employee. They're using their admin leave for union activities, which OPM says shouldn't even count as admin leave. In one instance that GAO discovered, an employee was being investigated, allegedly, for 12 months. For a year, he was receiving his pay. From 2011 to 2013, the GAO found that 97% of federal employees used 20 days or less of admin leave, which could be seen as reasonable. They're not really the problem. The problem is the 3%, the outliers. They're racking up 6 months, a year, over a year in admin leave use. So why aren't agencies being held accountable? It's a mix of bad incentives and weak oversight. It's the easy button. A lot of agencies, a lot of leaders in there, they don't want to deal with hard problems when it comes to personnel. So the easiest thing you can do is push the easy button and get that employee out of your office. Under the Civil Service Reform Act, firing or disciplining an employee triggers appeal rights, which can be a long, messy process. But putting someone on paid leave, there's no hassle. There's no appeal rights to that. So it's like a workaround. They're using this as a blank check. And really, what they used it for the most is the deferred resignation program. They wanted to create a powerful incentive to get people out of the federal government. And it worked. Tens of thousands of people took it. And a lot of people were looking at this administrative act, the 2016 one, and they were saying there's no way they're going to pay you because they can't. The agencies cannot justify going over 10 days. And here you have it. They're not supposed to. But this administration's going along with it. And the people are still getting paid. OPM even suggested in a footnote that agencies do not have to comply with this act until September 13th, 2025. So apparently they have a few more months to get within tolerance to ensure that they're doing the right thing. But really, it's been well known since the 1970s. This is not a shock. This is not a surprise to anyone. The GAO has been raising red flags over a decade ago, and it's being used as a tool to push people out, as a tool to completely change the face of the federal workforce. A good step in fixing this is actually reiterating once again that this 10-day cap, it doesn't just apply to 1 or 2 categories. It applies to everything. It looks like Congress needs to get involved once again. And that's the problem. When you need Congress to take action, typically you could be waiting a long time. You can rewrite a rule and then you're trying to get support for it. Because if you quickly hold a vote, it might not pass the House or the Senate. So it has to be worded just the right way. And oftentimes, that's one of the things that takes so long. Another thing, it could be pressuring certain senators or certain congressional representatives to actually vote in the way that benefits the public. Speaking of the OPM, we have some employees over there that were fired illegally, allegedly. So when they were fired due to a RIF, their positions didn't go away. They were working on OPM retirement services, so they knew that their mission, it couldn't go away. It was actually, their office was picked up and moved. They fired everyone on that team and they just moved offices. Now, when that happens, they're supposed to use a priority reinstatement list. Well, they didn't do that. They just fired everyone, relocated the office, and pretended like nothing has happened. That didn't follow the RIF regulations, the RIF procedures. So there's a massive appeal lawsuit taking place right now. If you want to know more about that, check this video out next. Stay updated by signing up to the free newsletter down below. Thank you so much for watching. I'll see you in the next one.